It's the Friday edition of Breakfast Central. You're tuned in with us for the next 3 hours as we bring you the biggest stories in politics, economy, and entertainment. And so we have entertainment towards the end of the show, as we typically do on Fridays. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. I am Olive MOD.
And I'm Benga Bora. Welcome to the Friday edition of Breakfast Central. Quite a lot is happening in the country. Bad news, good news, but you know, it's always a mixed bag when it comes to issues in Nigeria. But we're glad we're here to present to you the best breakfast show on television.
That's right, that's right. I mean, bad news, good news, it seems like it's a norm.
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie. Every now and then we hear it. But then again, welcome, I'm Joe Hansen, and this morning on a Friday, we'll be counting down to some of the biggest stories. Aside that, we'll take a look at what's really happening in different parts of the world. Particularly, our focus will be here in Nigeria. So if you just tuned in, feel free to follow us on all socials. And don't forget to drop a comment or two. We're streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, and X. You can name it, wherever you'd find us. Please feel free to do so. We'll go straight into our, definitely what we started with, which is the wake-up conversations. And we're starting with a very sad story. Well, we don't mean to spoil your Friday morning, but the story is that there was a fresh bandit attack in Kirawa community in Gwoza, Borno State.
Absolutely.
Now, videos did circulate online. If you recall, just August, there was an attack in that same space, in Gwoza community. And after that, right before August this year, Gwoza has been attacked multiple times, where we also had the governor who joined us here on Breakfast Central to talk about what he's doing with the security operatives to ensure that he stops the insecurity from rising, especially from where it is currently. But now it seems really like it's out of hand.
It is. I mean, the district head of Kirawa community, Alhaji Abdul Rahman Abubakar, reports had it that his palace was attacked and he's fled to neighboring Cameroon. And you will see pictures of the indigents and the citizens in Borno State in Kirawa community fleeing to Cameroon. We have exclusive video courtesy News Central. Please, let's take a look at this video. Viewer discretion is advised. It's really sad to see, but this is the reality of a number of Nigerians in Kirawa community. Let's take a look.
Allahu Akbar. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Mun gode wa Allah, wannan shine baraki na wani gari ne suna shi ba su zoi. Na Kirawa ne. Allahu Akbar. Allah ya ba mu nasara kansu. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Mun gode wa Allah. Wannan shine barakin Kirawa. Allah ya ba mu izina kai shi gashi nan. Wannan mota ne muna konawa. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Wannan mamota ne mun gode wa Allah. Allahu Akbar. Mun gode wa Allah. Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. Danke, stop. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Udah bangun ya, udah bangun. Jangan rumah ini ya, Om Bay. Rumah. Udah bangun nih. Kami udah bangun nih. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Mata tu ya, bani. Allahu Akbar. Kadir. Leo. Kau udah nang kono leo. Allahu Akbar. Neno betir kono le. Ha? Yung sa Allah.
These attacks don't seem isolated anymore. They're indicative of deeper issues and, deeper security challenges around Nigeria's borders. It would, part of the reports will be that that there is a vulnerability in these communities. This is not the first time, like Joe mentioned, the Kirawa attacks. Kirawa Poka Road was attacked in September. One civilian JTF official was killed. Now we're seeing that not only was the district head palaces burnt and a lot of shops along the way burnt, but people have had to flee for their lives. And that's what the reality is. That people, again, are afraid for their lives. People who went to bed in their homes have now woken up and turned into internally displaced persons. In a country where we're already struggling with the number of internally displaced persons that we have, the numbers keep increasing. Gentlemen, this is
it keeps increasing, and you wonder why you would find what many would refer to in the derogatory term as destitutes, or people who have fled their homes and decided to just live the best way they can anywhere they find themselves. In Lagos, you wonder why. In Lagos, you wonder why people are just migrating. Because if you look at the numbers of people from the northern part of the country coming into Lagos, it's no wonder, because they need some form of safety.
They just want to survive.
They just want to live. They just want to live.
I mean, this is terrible. I mean, there's a reason why the primary responsibility of every government is to provide security for Nigerians. That's the least. That's the basic you could do. And knowing the history of this region, knowing the history of these places, that they are soft targets, you expect deployment of quick, rapid response squads to deal with this terrorists. And I also think it's about time we change the nomenclature and stop using the word bandits. These are terrorists, and they should be dealt with the full weight of the law. And I think the time for kinetic or carrot and stick approach, non-kinetic and carrot and stick approach is gone.
Yes.
These are violent, extremely violent groups, and that's the only language they understand. And it's also an insult on the memories of their victims to go and negotiate or try and find a peace deal with these people. You know, while doing the military part, also look at the socioeconomic factors that drive recruitment that will make an able-bodied person, and also the brainwashing part, the religious extremism that makes them take weapons and attack innocent people. I don't think there's any holy book in the world that justifies that. So these are some of the strategies the authorities should be looking at. And it's so sad and ironic that this is coming less than 48 hours after Mr. President declared that, you know, the problem of terrorism and that there's peace in the land. Look at this. It's highly embarrassing.
Exactly, because
there's no need for the ostrich mentality. We need to raise our heads out of the sand and confront this head on.
I mean, ever since the Cameroonian forces, reports have it that since Cameroonian forces pulled out of Kirawa community, this has been a bit of a struggle, ensuring that they guarantee the safety and security of the citizens. But I would think that this particular attack has shown a number of things. One, the fact that the district head palace, the district head of the community had his palace attacked, I think it's symbolic. It's basically not just, exactly, they're attacking the authority and letting the people know that you are not safe, you cannot trust the state to protect you. That's one. Two, them burning shops, it's also very symbolic. In a country where we're already struggling with high numbers of multidimensionally poor people, they're attacking their shops. That is symbolic as well. It is them saying to them, and if you notice, they always typically target vulnerable people. They're targeting people going to pick firewood. They're targeting people's shops. Targets. Very soft targets. In a way, that's also trying to cripple the economy of the state.
I mean, just get them out, make us, that's why they're terrorists, terrorize them, make as much disruption into their lives as possible.
The videos you see there on the screen are videos of the community members and, of course, residents of Kirawa who had fled Kirawa itself in Borno State, and they were escorted by a few members of the Joint Task Force bordering between Nigeria and Cameroon. Now, not just that, take note that about 4 days ago, a senator, Senator Ali Ndume, had spoken out and he had called for help, that the military presence needed to be heightened, especially in this community, because while there were several attacks in the past, it also seemed that these attacks had resurfaced, had started all over again. A few persons were injured. Some who were on their bikes were equally attacked. And it just seems like it's not going to stop anytime soon.
I mean,
that's what it's looking
it
like.
didn't start yesterday. These issues the Army High Command have been dealing with for years. And you know vulnerable communities. From a journalistic and layman's perspective, you know soft targets that these communities, even if you can't, if the Nigerian army is stretched in terms of numbers, even if you can't deploy troops to every square meter of Nigeria's territory, you do know that these communities are vulnerable. There should be a rapid response, especially from the district head, to call for help, and they should be able to deploy in 8 to 10 minutes, and some form of assistance. But this doesn't happen. So there's clearly a failure somewhere, and somebody needs to take responsibility for this.
And when videos like this hit the internet, and we see attacks like this that seem successful with no apprehensions or no arrests being made, what it does is it further strengthens their resolve and lets them know, or makes them feel like they're immortal. So it then emboldens them to do more attacks. So what we must do is ensure that we protect the people. The responsibility of every government is to protect its citizens. And protecting the citizens would ensure that we do not allow citizens like this move from Nigeria to Cameroon. I mean, are we saying that we cannot protect our own here, that they have to leave our country? You are protecting your citizens from external aggression and as well internal aggression. Borno State governor, we must say, he's been trying. It's been hard. It's not been easy. They've had to deal with a lot. We've had the governor on the show here.
Senator Dume is always constantly
speaking up, and he's also called for help. For me, I always say this: until there's a call for a state of emergency on Nigeria's insecurity crisis, I think we'll continue to see.
What in the president's speech? Did you not see what was said about security?
So that's what Benga said. He made a statement that they've done well.
We've gotten to a point now that you really can't just see mere statements. When the president went to Makurdi, you thought, this is the crossing line. He left the seat of power in Abuja, even though he didn't get to the affected community. But he did say, look, he gave the marching orders and he said, we're going to do our very best to end the problems of terrorism. But it's just talk. And we need to move beyond talk to actualization and really doing something about it.
Again, just as we wrap up this conversation, before we get to what Nigerians are saying about this, our hearts really go out to these people. Our hearts go out to these, our brothers and our sisters who have been forced to leave their homes, leave the comfort of what they know as home, and then go into another country, neighboring country. And I think it's even safe to say at this point, thank you to Cameroon for helping us house our brothers and sisters at this point. It's really sad. But there have been reactions on social media to this video, and let's take a few of these reactions. What Nigerians are saying. Someone says, so many things are going on in Nigeria, which is bigger than Gaza, but no one is talking about it. The reason why you all are talking about Gaza is because of structural engineering, buildings that are going down. Nothing, absolutely nothing is happening in Gaza compared to what is happening in Nigeria. Save Nigeria today. Nigeria is bleeding. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
City of Kings. First off, what is happening is not bigger than Gaza, and there's no basis for comparison. I don't know why we even do that in the first place. So just focus on the issue and let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's solve our own challenges. Let's solve our own problems. We're so quick to compare.
We shouldn't compare. But I can understand why I'm not explaining, and I'm not saying that it's correct, but I think why certain people always bring up Gaza whenever we have insecurity challenges here is because we find that sometimes our leaders are quick to speak about Gaza.
I mean, and they're right to speak about Gaza or insecurity in Sudan.
Without addressing within. It's the same way they call out celebrities by saying, oh, once there's an attack in one country abroad, you're quick to say, oh, let's pray for this. How many times have you said pray for Benue? How many times have you said pray for Plateau? So at the end of the day, I'm not saying what is happening in Gaza. I'm not in any way excusing it, just to put that out there. And you can speak for Gaza and speak for Nigeria. I think what they're trying to say is basically, do not ignore what's happening at home here, because many would interpret what the speech of the president was as maybe in some measure downplaying what's happening here, and and then they will speak.
I think people should just address issues for what they are. Yeah.
All right, let's take the next comment on Instagram. This video was posted on Instagram, and this is what they're saying. Someone says it hurts to see our fellow country people go through this wicked ordeal. When will this stop, God? That's a question all of us are asking. When will this stop? Ribadu as NSA preparing to go and beg them by offering them goodies in exchange for. This is the non-kinetic approach that we have criticized.
Well, we can't confirm this though.
Sorry?
Yes, exactly. We can't confirm the authenticity.
No. I think this is not him saying that they will do it. He's saying I would interpret that to mean, he's sure that they are preparing any minute now to go and beg them.
But it's a community that did that in another state. The Katsina State. It's a community and the community leaders and the chiefs who actually welcomed the terrorists.
And the terrorists, as part of their goodwill, released some
captives.
When I saw that video, I said,
and they said that
it looked like a movie.
That if you come and attack us, there are many that will spring up.
So at the end of the day, to grant press release,
they went back to their
How did we get
abode?
Yeah, how did we get here? It was so glaring that as soon as they were leaving, there was a video I saw. The community was in somewhat cheering for them, like, hey, and they were riding their bikes and saying, "All right, we'll see you guys later, peace out," and so on. And they were asking for a lot. They asked for hospitals. They did ask for, was it food supplies and so on and so forth.
I warn you people not to
look
try.
At the weapons that's a general purpose machine gun. These things cost a lot.
This is also coming off the heels of a statement made by a gun runner who was caught. He said he was escorted by 400 Nigerian soldiers to deliver weapons. I'm still waiting to see if the military would debunk that statement, because that's a very huge indictment for a gun runner to come out well caught to say that he's always escorted by the Nigerian military to deliver weapons or give weapons to bandits or terrorists. So
I think the government has been approaching this security issues with kid gloves. I think that the time has come to take the gloves off and confront it head on, because this is just madness. And beyond just the violence and the physical attack, like I said, they also need to look at building community, attending to their economic needs, creating jobs and employment for people in this area to have a means of livelihood and a sense of belonging and also life, so they don't fall victim to violent extremist groups.
All right. Yeah. Let's move on now to our next story, a wake-up conversation. It's got to do with politics again, because it seems like every single day that's what we look into. Not because it is not important, but because, whether you like it or not, politics always defines how a country is run.
I mean, it's
whether you like it or not, it's part and fabric.
They make decisions, policies that affect our lives.
Absolutely.
So
and it's got to do
be
with
interested in politics.
Yeah, a former vice president is out again. There seems to be conflicting statements, neither here nor there. And this time it's got to do with the former vice president, President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Stories were rife yesterday that he has mentioned that he will be running for president. He says he has no plans to step down for anyone, contrary to reports initially made that if there is anybody who is younger, he will actually step down for that person. But then again, his aide, his special advisor, had come out to say, I think Tunji, I can't remember that his surname, had come out to say that he had a one-on-one conversation with the former vice president, and he did say that he's ready to run. He's not going to stop for anyone. However, there are questions regarding where or what political party he's going to run in. Don't forget that the former vice president himself has changed political parties like changing clothes. He started off with he was in the PDP. Then he moved to the AD, and then went back to the PDP. From PDP went back to APC. APC, he now went back to the PDP.
A moving man.
And now he has left the PDP. Although he tried to win the primaries against the former late MKO Abiola, but he never got that ticket. But then again, he's not stopping at anything 6 times, and this could be his 7th if he's not taking.
Yeah.
But
So
now again,
times a charm.
Nigerians,
Well, so he had granted an interview to the BBC Hausa, and it was that interview that was interpreted to say that he said that he's willing to step down if a younger candidate runs for him. Then Paulie came to clarify and said, no, BBC Hausa misinterpreted him. We've watched the original transcript. At no point did he say that what he said was that younger people are free to participate in the election, in the contest.
I mean, take a look at
but
this,
that he has no interest.
I mean, if it's by younger people, it means everybody that is contesting against is free to, because they're all younger. That means he should automatically step down. He's the oldest in the contest.
Was it a sarcastic statement that?
But I mean, it's
a
a
younger person, aside from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu or something.
Well,
maybe.
But it's there's so many things that people would look at that.
All right. So at the end of the day, he seemed very confident about winning the primaries. And when asked about his chances, his representative has said it's easier for the camel. I think the camel, Sheosani, I think it was Sheosani that said that it's easier for the camel to pass through the eye of the needle than it was for him to win the primary. Something like that.
Yeah, I remember. But the worry for many is the fact that they're still asking what platform is going to run him. It's going to run him.
I mean,
because from ADC,
yes.
How many people do you have on the ADC? How many people have gone?
Maybe they'll come to a consensus.
And again, there's still no clarity as regards when they say we're forming a coalition.
Doesn't mean you
there's still no clarity about what this coalition is all
about. The former
about.
vice president has officially, we remember announcing him officially joining the fold of the ADC, saying, you know, he did first to join.
Okay, Benga.
Yes.
Wait. First to join. PDP, he moved to AD, PDP, APC, PDP. Now, there's nowhere. He said he only joined for a coalition. He didn't say he joined to run. However, on that same ADC, who is going to emerge?
Yeah, they will have a primaries and they decide
whoever is the winner will then
the
take
flag
it
bearer for the party.
But he said he's not stepping down for nobody.
Okay, the delegates will decide at the convention.
Absolutely.
When they decide to.
We're not the only ones that are speaking about this. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has been in the news for the longest time, and he's represented a picture of being dogged. So his doggedness is applauded. He keeps running. If he will run to his final destination this time around, we don't know. I guess Nigeria.
Just the way former President Buhari was dogged 4 times and it became a charm.
Exactly. So let's see if it's going to be 7 times a charm. Let's see what Nigerians are saying about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and his intention to run and maybe not step down. Let's head to X. And our first tweet, Atiku, why are you so unstable like water? Why? Atiku, stay in one place and stop moving left, right, and center. That is Echieteka. So that's an interesting name. Echieteka means tomorrow is too far. Atiku Abubakar said he's not desperate to be president of Nigeria. If there's any truth in the statement, I think the best retirement gift Atiku will give himself at this point will be supporting Peter Obi, his one-time running mate, to take the lead. Atiku has been contesting and losing all along. He's always on the ballot in every election. It's time for him to accept the reality that he won't be president and leave the stage with his honor and dignity intact. One of the unique qualities of a good dancer is knowing when to vacate the stage, as the ovation is still loud. Interestingly,
is he saying that Atiku is a dancer now? Is he saying that Atiku is a stepper? Is he saying
that's a good answer.
The former vice president is a mover?
Yeah, we'll ask Dr. Kafi.
He's a political mover and shaker.
See, the truth is, I don't know how these coming elections will turn, but if truly he doesn't get on the ballot this coming one, I also think he should rest.
I mean, at this point, he's in his late 70s.
Yes, if he doesn't get on the ticket this time, he should
almost
really rest.
like No Country for Young Men. Paul Biya at 92, he's just decided to
go again.
When we were small, they told us we are the leaders of tomorrow. Leaders of yesterday have refused to vacate the spot for us.
No, they can't leave it for you.
Our children are here. The current government will do everything possible to ensure Atiku contests in the next election, irrespective of the party. That's their only way to checkmate Peter Obi. Atiku contesting is a direct win for APC.
This is
it's taking us back to 2023. There were concerns.
Divided opposition.
Yeah, divided oppositions, divide to conquer. In other words, separate the numbers, separate the votes. If Atiku gets higher votes, the vote will not actually be compiled to favor one person. You know, there's a lot.
And then the unwritten rule that, you know, power should rotate between the north and the south.
Yeah.
Yes, the incumbent president has just done 4 years. And then you also, you know, you're a northerner and you're contesting.
In the words of...
doesn't, like many people interpret it as, you know, being very stubborn and going against the tide and trying to rock the boat. But, I mean, the Constitution is supreme. Constitution doesn't recognize that. You're
it
free
doesn't.
to contest.
And I think it's high time Nigerians take note of that. I think there should be an orientation to help Nigerians understand that there is no way in the Nigerian Constitution that states that if Benga runs, because Benga is from the southwest, therefore Olive should run next because she's from the south, and then Joe should also go, well, we're both south.
That's why they call it unwritten gentlemanly agreement or gentlewomanly.
I don't understand what that agreement
in the case
is.
of
Who signed that agreement? Was it
But that's
General
this is an age-old argument. This is an age-old argument because if we start to go about that argument, we start going in circles again with those who say zoning is a good idea, zoning represents, you know, federal character. We won't get out of this argument, but maybe we'll move on from that conversation to another one.
Yeah.
And celebrate the people of Edo State, where the governor of Edo State has been applauded for doing something incredibly remarkable. This is Governor Monday Okpewolo of Edo State, who did
he find the cure for cancer?
No, he didn't find the cure for cancer. Neither did he find the cure for HIV. What he has done is absolutely remarkable, praiseworthy, and you would see that the citizens agree. In fact, one of the citizens made a video of him that has now gone viral on social media, a video that sort of reminded me of what we would typically see when the Minister of FCT, back in the day when he was governor of Rivers State, you know, he would have his praise singers singing his praise, and you know, with
a live band, you know, very novel. And Olive, we've worked together in this job for so many years, and we were colleagues in our previous work. And I guess I've been through your CV once or twice. I saw spoken languages, basic Yoruba, English, Igbo, but there was nowhere I saw that you speak the language of sarcasm.
Oh, I forgot to put that.
Yes.
I'm very fluent in
sarcasm.
Thank you very much. I shall update my CV to reflect that. That being said, let's play with you this very highly commendable video of the Edo State governor doing what I almost called him president, because at this rate, with all the hailing in that video, you might as well think it's the president.
And the security bodyguard. There was Django Unchained in the front and in the back.
Let's take a look.
Governor with the entire gutter, checking the project. Abako Rescue, he has come to rescue Sapler Road. Abako, the light of Edo State, the light of Edo, Abako Rescue. Governor with the entire gutter, Governor with the entire gutter. Governor with the check project for weekend. Oh God. Governor we know they tired to work. Mr. Project, uncommon governor, uncommon project. Governor we know they tired to work. He's moving today Saturday, weekend. Wait for rest, you see they walk. He's walking. See a governor with the enter gutter. Since 1999, we never see governor with the enter gutter. Akpako. Oh God. He's checking. He's looking whether the contractor is working. In Edo, 2.5 million votes is settled. Asiwaju. Akpako. God sent to Edo State. God sent to Edo State. The man that God has sent to come and rescue Edo. Edo is shining. The governor is working. Miracle worker. Miracle worker. Governor, we know they tired to work. Governor, we know they tired to work. Waiting other governors no fit do for 8 years. Akpako is doing it. Oh, governor, we get swag. Governor, we get level. Oh God. The light of Edo. God bless the governor. God bless the governor. God bless the governor.
If they give the governor all this healing and all these praises, what would they now give God?
Exactly. What is remaining?
Because they have called him miracle worker. You know, they've called him the light of Edo State. He has come to save them. If he came to save them, what did Jesus come and do?
I need to inspect this studio.
Anchor with the wall.
Is the TV working well?
Anchor.
Okay.
A miracle working anchor.
Okay.
Anchor with the enter God.
Keep
Light
me.
of breakfast central.
Okay.
Miracle of New Central. Uncommon uncle.
Stand up. Are you okay?
This is so funny. Anchor when they walk.
Yes.
When they walk, how many months?
Uncle.
Waiting other anchors never do for 8 years. Now you don't do for
I just checked the. You know, he didn't say anything.
Jokes apart. I know that was very funny and very sad. I'm sure, like you had mentioned off air, that this is going to end up becoming maybe a TikTok challenge. Kudos to the governor for inspecting the gutter. But why are we Nigerians now so celebratory of mediocrity? Anyway, let's see what Nigerians are saying. When we'll come back, we'll share our own thoughts here. All that paparazzi for a gutter / drainage / road, whatever. The day they build a technology that can run a refinery like the one that India gave Dangote, what would they do then? We really need to stop sweating small stuff. It's 2025. Africans are too easily impressed by small things.
Now, wow, which one is India gave Dangote refinery?
I weak.
Let politicians work and finish what they started before running to praise them like they are not doing their constitutional duties. These are basic amenities.
Facts.
When will Nigerian development move away from road? We've been fixing roads for decades. Please add gutters to it. Roads and gutters. Now this is the problem.
No, that's not gutter. I need to correct you, Olive. That's a drainage.
A drainage.
For a governor to enter inside.
That's a drainage. It's a dry. It's an empty.
It has taken it from a gutter level to a drainage.
Besides, take note. It's not gutter yet. It's just a constructed drainage system.
No. He's saying that the fact that the governor entered inside, it has elevated the status. You can't just call it a gutter.
You can't just call it common gutter.
Common gutter.
It's a drainage system.
Yeah.
A channel to channel wastewater.
Wastewater.
Yeah.
Water. Yeah, I feel you.
Let's continue with the tweets. Now, this is the problem. No Nigerian politician, dead or alive, deserves to be praised like this. There's an allocated money for a project like this, and we not even use 30% of the budgeted allocation for its purpose. Some are trying when they are desperate for re-election.
Boom.
You know what we need to do as a country? You know those retreats that companies hold? The whole country should meet at somewhere like Pine Tropicana or so, and then let's discuss our issues.
My brother,
we need to deal.
My brother, I agree with you.
We need to breathe in and out.
We have been so, would I say, tortured
abused
mentally.
Yes.
That we do not know what is right.
The bar is so low.
It's so low. But there are two sides to this story, though. After this tweet, Governor with the entire gutter in 2025 shows how low we have gone as a people and a nation. This is the lowest of the lows. We have been so deprived of what we just said, so deprived of good governance that we celebrate a display of anyhowness. Just imagine. And we agree with you, Oluwafemi. Let's take another one. It says, I pray one day you see Dubai, UK, with all our resources. It is somebody that entered gutter that we are healing. This voice for background, they vex me. It don't vex you alone.
We also have to say that
comments I saw.
The governor is just returned from Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah, where he also gave a speech.
Summit, yes.
Yeah, where he gave a speech in which many have said it wasn't a good speech because he was repeating and said things that weren't true. But because we're not addressing that story, let's address this one. So there are two sides to this story. This particular one, the governor with the entire gutter. One is what we've highlighted now. I think Nigerians have been so deprived of good governance, like the tweet said, that we do not really understand what good governance is. That's one. Two, on the flip side, I think people are trying to portray the truth, which they had been missing for a very long time in the previous administration under the governorship of Obaseki, in whom they were expecting that he would have delivered good roads and so on and so forth after he had promised them that he would do so. Now, the two sides to this coin is this. One, Nigerians have not been so enlightened to understand that Nigeria is a blessed nation. We have so much money, we have so much resources that we should be the Dubai of the world, not Africa alone, but of the world. So because we do not know what we have, whatever we are being given is seen as the best that we've had.
Oh, we have this mentality that the governor is paying out of pocket for this.
Exactly,
project.
and it's not paying out of pocket.
Maybe because they slapped their names on some of this constituency projects.
It's your money. It's your money.
It's taxpayers' money, and we need to understand that.
It's your
That's
money.
the basic minimum they expect it to do. And somebody said in 2025, we
Gwoza.
should move beyond. I mean, you see legislation. You watch the parliament in Europe. They're talking about the euthanasia, the right to die with dignity. They've moved beyond Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
They're talking
about pet, animal, the way you should kill
Euthanasia for
animals.
animals, yeah.
You know, animal rights. They've evolved beyond that level. And we're still dealing with what Shagaria and Aulo campaigned with.
So I think my thoughts, I will differ slightly. I think that it's not a bad idea to applaud politicians when they've done well. Why? Because there are still politicians who have the same resources, the same access, that are not doing anything. So I've always been of the opinion. I've always been of the opinion that it's okay to say well done when you think that someone has been working. In the same way that we give criticism, we must give compliments. That's one. However, the level of, and I know this is in no way reflective of the governor. It's the person, the hype man, that this is addressed at. The hype man, which is representative of the psychophancy that we often see in the Nigerian electorate. We need to do better and know that we should expect more. If you are singing praises and you've turned into a proper hype man for inspection of gutter, then what happens when you see that the government is doing much more than they have planned to do? These are their responsibilities.
Standard
it's okay to say well done. Thank you so much, and we applaud you for doing what you owe us, what you've promised us. But that's a bit much. That's a bit low. You need to calm down. Yeah, calm down. We need to calm down.
That's not a hype man anymore. That guy is a town crier.
But in all honesty, let's just leave it as it is. As we wrap up, let's just say that I want to believe that Senator Umar-Farouq will surprise the Edo people. Because with the way in which he has started,
he seems to have started
on
well.
a very good note. Let's be honest. Let's say the way it is. And I think he's following. There are a few of them on that same WhatsApp group. Senator Umar-Farouq, what's his name? No, not former CBN Governor Charles Chukwuma Soludo. I think he's not also on that list. You have the Abia State governor.
You'll be surprised that Chukwuma Soludo still has his supporters.
I'm not talking about him having supporters. I'm talking about governors who are showing working.
That's what I'm saying.
Of Abia State.
Governor Alex Oti, remember the street light? When people sat down on the street and say, wow.
But Governor Umar-Farouq is a very unique politician because he seems to be running a two-pronged race. At every point he gets access to a microphone, he's always quick to praise Mr. President in Abuja. Always quick to promise him 2 million votes. Constitutionally, he can only guarantee one vote. So where would
it means what he's saying is that
a bird in hand is better than two in the sky. But secure your own election first. Leave Mr. President.
They said from this gutter, his election, if you saw some comments, his election is secured till 2035.
Okay. And then I don't know his background. I don't know if we
Can I quickly read this comment? Ikechukwu Victory on X says, Edo people have been scammed. I understood that one of you in the studio this morning is from Edo State. Is any of us from Edo State? No. Edo State is here. You should pray for his dear state. The truth is the standard of governance has been reduced to 0. And then in response to Atiku, says, Atiku contesting again should be considered a betrayal of Nigerian people, a sign of a man who lacks sense of equity and honesty. He collaborated with Buhari and Tinubu to fight GJ because he's of the north. And then Chukwemeka says, Governor was just taking this true, funny man, but Olive, that's your sarcasm maybe. Well, the final thing, when we talk about the governor inspecting, I was wondering, does the governor have a background in engineering?
Exactly.
How does he know that he's looking
He didn't even speak to any. I mean, from the video we saw, he wasn't talking to any site engineers.
Because if I'm inspecting the gutter, I just want to see that, okay, study. I don't know what to look out for. I'm not an engineer.
Okay,
I'm not
from what I could see from an engineering perspective, the parts...
Are you an engineer?
I'm not, but I mean from common sensical engineering perspective. Look, the parts Can we play that
No,
video?
we are not
again?
playing it.
I'm not playing that video.
Let's go. We are
There's
not
a
playing.
part where you have gates and people's businesses.
He asked,
that
he
have
said,
been-
why is this gate here and the
No,
gutter?
no, exactly. Did he ask?
Yes, he
No,
asked.
so there's something they do to make provisions for that little
Yes.
cover. So cars
They are
can
still
drive in.
working
No,
on
they will do
it.
All the
They are
bridges,
still working on
it's
it.
extra work.
They are still
Look,
working
that's-
on it.
No, they will do all of that, Benga. It took a long time before he got
another
there.
gate.
Yeah, it took a long
just
time before he got
haven't-
there. Benga, I get what
We're
you're
going
saying.
to get. No, I need
that's
to
why.
figure
Oh,
out.
these
Look
gates.
at-
Not this
No,
one.
no,
This
this
is-
gate.
It's
That's
going to take a
that's
long time to
lock-up
get
shop.
there. I know what you're talking about. He
No.
asked.
We're approaching the gate now.
Gates of heaven.
Benga,
we'll
we need
see
to
get
we need to wrap up this.
We need to get.
segment.
Benga, you know what we'll do? We'll go
look
and
at
for the
that
gates by
Yes, now
yourself.
he asked. Now he
Okay.
said,
Oh,
"What's going on here?"
Okay, to cross over the gates.
Yes, they're going to set the.
And they're still
of course, now
building
they're
now.
not
This thing
done
is
now.
not
After the
yet done.
gutters,
No, I'm
they
not
would-
saying it should be done. It should not be on the same level with the
Don't
others.
worry. about
Okay, we
it.
have to go now. Congratulations to the people of Edo State who wash your Kirawa water with a
the
bottle of whatever
source
it is you
of the
drink.
hype was Egogo the town crier, you see? I
Okay.
was right. So that's
Okay.
his art and trade.
Oh,
the person that posted
brilliant.
it
Anyway,
on TikTok.
let's go on a break. But before then, let's share with you what the top stories this morning are on the show. Governance this morning as well. And we'll be bringing up Pat Utomi as the court has declared his shadow government unconstitutional. We're revisiting that conversation again. The SGF and faith leaders call for unity in northern Nigeria. And the newspapers, we look through the front pages of about 4 papers. We'd open the phone lines at this point, so get ready to call when it's time. Stay tuned for all these and more.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, says his administration has disbursed 330 billion naira to 8 million households under the social investment program during his October 1st presentation. Now, a bold claim, one that promises relief actually to millions. But there are so many questions. How transparent is the process? But let's take a look.
Under the social investment program, to support poor households and vulnerable Nigerians, 330 billion has been disbursed to 8 million households, many of whom have received either 1 or 2 out of 3 tranches of the 25,000 naira each.
The numbers are quite staggering, 25,000 naira per household across 3 tranches. But with the past scandals haunting the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, including the suspension of former Minister Betta Edu over a 585 million naira transfer into a private account, Sadia Umar-Farouq was ordered by the federal government to account for 729 billion naira disbursed under her tenure. Nigerians are asking, where is the accountability? Join us this morning.
It's, of course, the Program Director of Clean Foundation. We have Salahuddin Hashim. Thank you very much for joining us.
For having me.
So I think straight to the point, the big question is, where is this 330 billion naira? We're seeing reports that 8 million households have benefited from this. This was first mentioned by Minister Wale Edun some weeks back and then reconfirmed by the president in his Independence Day speech, and has, of course, dragged a lot of criticism. So how do we verify that 330 billion naira actually reached 8 million households?
All right, this is actually another familiar terrain. It is deja vu. We have had this pathway in the past that never led into any meaningful development. There is no government anywhere in the world that uses handout as a means for poverty alleviation or for purposes of strategic development. Over the years, government in this country have been very deliberate to set up programs that provide some level of distortion and cannot be connected to the strategic economic policies. And the idea behind it is not to target citizens, but basically to be able to advance individual and greed within the system. And of course, we know too well how typical corruption had played out in our country. But what are the two most important elements that we need to take home from here? One, over the years, some years ago, I had actually made a request for a register of those who have benefited from this in the past. And the question I got back in return was that poor people don't want to be associated with poverty, and that those registers cannot be made public, and that it is actually not in the interest of those people who are taking to be seen that their names are being published in the public space. And I think this is not very correct. And I think there should be a register, one that suggests very clearly how very important and how transparent this process had gone. Two, is whether or not those who are actually taking this money are not those associated with political parties and world structures across these local areas, and not basically the indicators of those who are truly poor. And I think that is also something to get very worried about. And maybe most fundamentally, there's a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and that report suggested that only 36% of those individuals who have been targeted have been reached, who have received only one tranche so far, a minimum of one tranche. And I think, again, the president needs to do a review of whether or not this is actually the best way to go as a sustainability effort towards making citizens see reasons with how to get out of poverty. What this does, the consequences of all of this, is that it creates a dependent or dependency citizenship, where people just depend on handout for purposes of development. And I think this is actually negative, and it must be thoroughly discouraged.
Mr. Hashim. Looking at what we've witnessed so far, and you also alluded to the fact that it gives a deja vu feeling. So we've done this before. It's not the first time we're experiencing this. What is the best way and a sustainable way to have social intervention programs that actually teach people how to fish rather than give them handouts? What's the global best practice with regards to this sort of disbursements or interventions?
Like this with a wider economic policy. So if you intend to take a number of people out of poverty, like for instance, in China, in about a decade, they took over 40 million people out of poverty. And the idea was they linked it into agriculture, and that in itself was driven by some level of strategic government intervention. So you must have that linkage. Otherwise, you just create a silo of policies and development that does not speak to each other. And there must be some level of interaction between the formality of what you are doing and the informal intervention that you are carrying out. Because basically, where you see in developed climes that things like this happen are usually in crisis situation, crisis both economically, whether it is a pandemic, whether it is a personal job crisis. In fact, in the UK, people don't want to be seen around social welfare offices to go get some level of intervention, because they find it that it actually affects their own social dignity. But what matters most is that there should be some level of structured approach. One is the fact that we have a social protection policy. The social protection policy provides a number of indicators and pathway for this to happen. And the social protection policy also, even though it is not sufficient enough in terms of provision, should have a social register. That social register should be the strategic pillar that allows the process of targeting and documentation to happen. Then once they are documented, then it goes through a particular process. But you cannot say that interventions without adequate register and number. Now you have 8 million. If you have to interrogate that number, you realize that that number in itself does not exist. And even if if you do disaggregation further, you'll realize that there are party individuals and structures and loyalists at different levels who have also benefited. I was in an office once, and a senior officer who was a director got an alert for fertilizer input. This was some years ago. She said, well, she didn't even apply, but somebody had put her name, and she didn't need it. So the fact is, hopefully, those who actually have been targeted are those who actually needed it. But overall, is that this kind of thing doesn't work. One is that we need to invest in skills for these people that will help them to be able to depend and find alternatives to their sustainable livelihood. Livelihood program and livelihood intervention goes beyond just offering handouts. Handouts will not get anywhere. If you give 25,000 naira for a family of 4, it won't take a week for them to be able to deal and conclude on that. And of course, they look for the next one. And that tells very clearly the kind of citizenship we are building that depend on handouts, and then of course become lazy, less productive, and over time they become very recalcitrant, and they just believe that it is actually a weapon. But again, the question is, are there politicization tool? Are there politicization weapon? What are the intentions behind it? Because sometimes in issues like this, we also need to interrogate motive. So is the motive to actually reduce poverty, or is the motive actually to build loyalists among citizenship for purposes of re-election? I mean, I'll leave that for the states to determine.
Very good question you asked there. If it's to build loyalty, or it's actually to curb the hunger that is in the land. But let me take you back to your first comment. You did make a few statements which are very, very thought-provoking. You said you had asked for the register of the names, possibly the numbers of these ones who, in quotes, have been termed the poor and the beneficiaries of this, trenches that have been sent to them, and you weren't given. So my question is, are Nigerians just stuck in complete docile state where they are not bothered about who is receiving this money? And what do you think needs to be done at this point? Because the NSIP will continue to dole out this money or cash to certain individuals whom we cannot identify. So what should we be asking for now that the president and one citizen has come out to say they've given them? What should Nigerians ask for, since you asked and you didn't get it?
Nigeria should first ask for the register, and of course some level of backup details to suggest. First of all, the register. Just first give Nigerians the register, and the register will contain some basic biodata, and that will be able to validate that, okay, this person is in this location, they are male and female, they have a phone number, or even if they don't have a phone number, they live in specific address, and this is their account number. And of course, you know that we are in the era where BVN also offers some level of financial intelligence. But overall, I think the worry here is that governance and government in the last few years of our return to democracy have been very innovative in terms of how they actually move monies, whether for personal or for purposes of advancing their own political career. And that in itself has actually taken plenty of dimension. So what we are saying now is actually at the federal level. If you go to the state level, it is even worse with different provisions in the budget lines where citizens also are not aware or knowledgeable in terms of the kind and the right questions to ask. And of course, in the name of appropriation, the question is, once it is appropriated and it is actually passed by the Act of Parliament, it becomes a law. It means that it is a legitimate spending. So which means that you cannot interrogate, or you cannot fault, or you can, even if it is misappropriated, you cannot say no, because it has actually become a product of the law. The budget is the second most important document in the country after the Constitution. So in the name of appropriation, once that money has actually been passed as a resolution by the National Assembly, and then of course legitimately or illegitimately becomes the money that could be spent. But the question is, we can ask whether or not the register does exist, and if it does, what are the channels where you can actually share with citizens or those who are interested in following the money? Because we must follow the money, or otherwise this becomes like a traditional jamboree that we are familiar with on a periodic basis. Because again, it has become the very
Hello, Mr. Hassan.
Seems to have a network connectivity. There's a lot being got to talk about here.
But I mean, saying that you're not
How
going
come
to
there's no
release
register?
Yes, saying
I think that's
you
the
don't want
biggest
to
question.
release the register on the excuse of, you know, you're
They don't
serving
want
them their
no.
That's
You need to go on
that's,
Twitter
that's
and
the
just
biggest.
go on Twitter and see people openly their account details. If you even ask for their house addresses,
For urgent 2K.
For urgent 2K, they will. So I don't believe this. Someone that is struggling to eat, you think having his name published is the least?
Then that would be a prideful beggar. If you say, "Oh yes, I don't want to release my details."
So I don't.
The biggest question
is accountability.
I think for me, the biggest question here, Mr. President should address is the fact that we expect that in the next 48 hours, Nigerians should demand for the register of those who have benefited from the 330 billion naira. And I think it is in good light and democratic for the president to say, okay, that's fine. Even if we are not able to provide you their data based on data protection laws, okay, let's bring the data protection laws here into play. But we're able to provide you with these people, especially if you want freedom of information to prove that we are indeed doing what we said we will do. But if someone who has the wherewithal and the ability to request for such database, just like our guest, who has followed through in instances and cases like this,
even as journalists,
and you're told, oh, sorry, you can't get it. Because I won't lie to you, if you're watching and you're a beneficiary of the monies that are being thrown at you from the government just to use for your upkeep and to keep going, we would like to interview you. I've not seen, even from the newspapers, I've not seen one person,
if you're watching
3, 4, 5 in the papers.
If you're watching this, then you shouldn't have been a beneficiary because you can even afford a television.
I think that it's important now more than ever for the government to present a register. There needs to be, first of all, a register that is made public to citizens. Secondly, an understanding of how the citizens whose names made it to the register were selected. And this is because we've had past scandals, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. We've had the Peter Edu, the Sadiq Kumar, and to date, there hasn't been any final decision or action that has been taken to establish some form of discipline. There hasn't been closure in those cases. So until we get to that point, and even after, I think that it's imperative that we have some form of clarity. So until there is clarity with those two cases, and there is a social register that is made available to the public, this breach of trust, it will continue to widen. The gap will keep getting wider. But we're going to break now. When we come back, we'll share with you more. There's more coming up next on Breakfast Central.
According to one of our producers, this is the point where you say we now switch conversation to something different. A new report recently released has delivered a damning verdict on the state of transparency in Nigeria's public sector, showing that only 6 out of 570 ministries, departments, and agencies met the minimum benchmark for accountability in 2025. The shocking figure leaves 511 agencies, nearly 99% stuck in what the report describes as the red zone, where lack of transparency, poor integrity measures, and weak compliance systems dominate.
The findings contained in the 2025 Transparency and Integrity Index paint a bleak picture of governance and raises fresh questions about how public institutions handle taxpayers' money, implement projects, and interact with citizens. For ordinary Nigerians, the figures are more than just statistics. They point to a broken system that directly affects livelihoods, service delivery, and public trust. And it's not just obscure agencies. Heavyweights like the Federal Inland Revenue Service and Central Bank and the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority or failed the transparency test. Now, what does this say about accountability, service delivery, and public trust? Well, let's talk about this as we have our guests who's here with us. President of the Movement Pro Pictures and United States political analyst Ibidolapo Ajayi and Communications Manager Connected Development Stephen Kinfala, who also joins us this morning. But let's start first with you. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Six out of 517 only passed this transparency and integrity test. Now, that's just a big red flag, if you like to call it that way, but it's also a governance inefficiency if you look at it on the other side. So can you share with us what the thoughts are, especially from your end, and what do you think the systemic rot that has been exposed is going to cause Nigerians and Nigeria?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. From my perspective, this lack of transparency and accountability can have far-reaching consequences, really, because when nearly 99% of agencies are classified in the red zone, it basically signals a broken system that not only affects governance, but also the day-to-day lives of ordinary Nigerians, because citizens rely on these institutions for essential services, and when trust erodes, it creates a disconnect between the government and the people. And the implications are really profound. For one, it undermines public trust. When citizens see that even heavyweight institutions like the Federal Revenue Service and the Central Bank are failing the transparency test, it does raise questions about how their tax money is being used. And this can lead to skepticism towards government initiatives and a reluctance to engage with public services. Then if you also think about it, the lack of accountability can stifle service delivery. Because if agencies are not held to a standard of transparency, there's little incentive for them to improve their operations and also deliver effective projects. So for me, ultimately, this impacts everything from infrastructure development to healthcare services, which are crucial for the well-being of the population.
Now, are there any stipulated punitive measures or penalties for falling into the red zone and not being transparent, as we've seen the blatant disregard for the rules by this ministries and agencies ignoring the directive or the rules?
Well, if you are to use the United States as an example, I mean, of course, this is a very, very important question. The lack of stipulated punitive measures for ministries and agencies that fail to do this and fall into the red zone is a significant part of the problem, because in theory, there should be consequences for failing to meet transparency benchmarks. But in practice, the enforcement is the issue. It's often lacking. I'll tell you, in the United States, there are mechanisms like the Freedom of Information Act that empower citizens and journalists to hold government agencies accountable. And when officials fail to comply, there are often repercussions, whether through legal challenges or public pressure. But I think in Nigeria at the present time, the situation is a bit different. The existing laws may be there, but the enforcement is somehow weak, and many agencies sometimes just ignore requests for transparency without any real consequence. And what that does just to create a culture where non-compliance can be seen as acceptable. Without strong enforcement, there's really little motivation for the agencies to change their behaviors or improve their practices. So it's not just about having rules in place, it's about ensuring that those rules are respected and that there are real consequences when they are ignored.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution. Let's now bring in Communications Manager, Connected Development, Stephen Akinfala. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. It's my pleasure joining you here from Abuja.
All right, let's get your thoughts. 6 out of 517, and your general assessment of Nigeria's state of transparency in the Nigeria's public sector.
Okay, so That's a big problem, actually, to start with. However, looking at the positive side, it is possible for 6 to be transparent. That shows that there's a possibility for more to be transparent, and that is where the work should begin, right? So there's a big problem, there's a big gap. There's no transparency. I mean, there's no accountability when there is no transparency in government, right? So for people to be able to access the governance, there should be a form of transparency. There should be access to information. Just to take it a step back, looking at what we do at Connected Development. So for Connected Development, we've been around for over 12 years now. And just recently, last year, we saved the government. We tracked over 400 billion, right? And this is what we're doing, trying to see how can we mitigate, how can we support the government, how can we manage the gap in transparency. So it is simple. If nobody is watching you, if nobody is going to ask you any question, your human nature naturally will want to do what suits you, right? But now when citizens are empowered, when citizens are waking and they know their rights, they have access to timely information, right? They'll be able to hold their elected government accountable, right? So previous speakers talked about different mechanisms that have been put in place, the freedom of information and all of that, right? We use all of this to checkmate, to ask questions, to know where is our money going to, where is it, we know where it's coming from. Most of them are taxpayers' money, you know, and we have different projects we work on for the climate finance. We know there's a lot of money that are coming into the country as loan to mitigate climate issues, but they're not well managed, right? So these are things that once we know, we'll be able to ask our government, our elected officials questions. Also, we took it further with our flagship program, Follow the Money, right? There is something we started just this year. We call it Fact About Facts. And, you know, there is this local government autonomy that has come into place now, where local government at the subnational have access to fund, unlike before, where the money goes to the state government and the government of the day decide on what to do, and the governance is not reaching to the grassroots, right? So what we're doing right now is to take our time to look at the budget spending reports and see how much goes to the states, how much gets to the local government. So people, for example, if I'm from Ondo State, Idonre local government, I can know how much actually gets to my government officials, to the local government chairman, for what and for what, right? So when I go to my community, I don't have to be there just looking and thinking that maybe the government of the day is doing me a favor, where there's funding, there's allocation already for them. So when this is there, we are trying our best and seeing how we can help manage this. And our call to action today is for everybody to wake up, ask questions that will challenge the authority, that will not give them the room to do what they feel they want to do. And also to add that we'll be going to, some of my colleagues will be in Spain later this month. You know, also we have this open government partnership. You know, Nigeria is signed into this as well. But all of these things are in place. But we'll be going to share knowledge alongside with other civil society organizations in Nigeria with support from Makato Foundation, right? So we'll be sharing knowledge from other countries and see how they've been managed, how they've been able to successfully manage a transparent governance, right? For us, we are trying, but we still have a long way to go.
Okay.
I think I'll stop there. All
right. Thank you so much for that. But we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we do have so many questions to ask regarding this integrity test and transparency test as well. So do stay with us, gentlemen. Welcome back. Here on Breakfast Central, we're taking a look at a new report that has been recently released, and it's shown a damning verdict on the state of transparency in Nigeria's public sector, showing that only 6 out of 517 ministries, departments, and agencies met the minimum benchmark for accountability in 2025. Earlier on, we're being joined by the President of Movement Pro Pictures and United States political analyst, Ibidolakwa Ajayi, and Communications Manager, Connected Development, Stephen Akinfala. Of course, we do have the gentleman, but Stephen is still here with us. I'm told Ibidolakwa will be... Okay, all right, that's fine. So we do have you, and thank you so much for staying with us. But let's look at the anti-graft agencies. Now, most of the anti-graft agencies' goals are to ensure that there's transparency. That word transparency is very highlighted. And it seems like there's a shortfall regarding how transparent even the anti-graft agency is. I'm not going to mention names of whichever, but I'm sure you've been following the stories. You've seen how fingers have been pointed to either of them, accusations and counter-accusations about what the monies that have been found have been used for, when an individual has been spotted to act in a corrupt manner in either of the agencies or ministries, and he's still there, nothing has happened. Can you share with us, especially what you think about the role the anti-graft agencies have to play with this report and what they can really do now that it shows that they have proven either ineffective or very effective? I'm going to go with you, Mr. Bidepo, first.
Okay, that's a very important question. And again, it highlights a critical issue in governance, especially in Nigeria. The anti-graft agencies are supposed to be the backbone, basically, of transparency and accountability in government. So when these agencies themselves are mired in accusations and counter-accusations, it basically undermines their credibility and their effectiveness. In my view, their role should be twofold. First, they need to actively investigate and hold accountable those who are corrupt, regardless of their position or influence in society. And that means not just looking at the low-hanging fruits, but also addressing high-profile cases that often get swept under the carpet. So really, it's a big issue in Nigeria because, I mean, there are many records of people that the populace have looked at when these agencies are investigating them and expecting some level of justice, and they're not saying it. Additionally, transparency is key because without it, the public will always be skeptical of the agency's motives and effectiveness. And I think, for me, implementing regular public reports and independent audits will be a step in the right direction. And it's also about creating an environment where the public feels informed and also empowered to hold these agencies accountable. I'll say that ultimately, the anti-graft agencies, they want to regain the public's trust. So what they need to do is demonstrate that they are not just reactive, but they are proactive in their approach to combating corruption. And that means being transparent. There's no two ways around it. They have to be accountable and they have to be willing to take on the tough cases, the high and mighty in society. And also they have to be bold, no matter how politically sensitive the situation may be. But sometimes, because when you look at the way they are set up, it's sometimes difficult to see a separation between them and the folks in power.
Now, I'd like to bring Stephen back into the conversation. Stephen, the Tinubu administration have emphasized reform, but at the MDA's complaint, is the Bureau of Public Service Reforms doing enough to enforce standards? And also, where does this bring the National Assembly? Because every other year, these ministries and agencies go to the National Assembly where they perform, the National Assembly performs its oversight functions, looks into the books and approves their budgets for the year. But at this point, shouldn't they be pointing to compliance level? Why did they let them go scot-free with this? Nigerians deserve accountability and they deserve better.
Okay, thank you for that. So for the reform, right, and sticking to this is as what's well said earlier. You see, when we talk about reforms, it's not just in policies, it's not just in papers. We should be able to show workings. We should be, the leaders are supposed to live by examples. And it's simple, they are elected officials. If they are not living up to the task, then there's another time for us to be able to make a proper decision, right? So I believe they feel like nothing's going to happen to them if they decide to do what they want to do and nobody's going to question their decisions, right? So, but for us at Connected Development, we are so key about this. We are keen on making sure that these people, I mean, our leaders are accountable. They decided to stand by what they say. not just doing the talking and doing contrary to what they're saying they want to do. Right. So if you talk about minimum wage, it should cut across. If you talk about you want people to endure for a time because of the economic reform that is coming in place, then it should cut across, not a selective form of policies where some people benefit while the others have to bear the brunt. That is not going to be acceptable. And these are things that we're bringing for through advocacy campaigns and different activities to be sure that whatever, this is Nigeria. And we are all here. We are not saying that reforms should not come, but reforms should cut across every sectors, everyone, regardless of your political status, regardless of your position in the society. But once there is a discrimination when it comes to the implementation of policies, there will be problem. There will be breach of trust where people feel like, why will these people be able to go scot-free or be able to do some things without questioning, and if the other person do the same or even something lesser, they're going to bear the brunt. So talking about reform, it should cut across sectors. It should cut across different people. I remember we have another product, we call it non-track. This is a
sorry, Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Stephen, sorry, I have to butt in there. I just want us to focus on the conversation we're having, which is focused on the transparency situation and the report. I mean, I do understand that where you work, you're also tracking and following these transparency issues. But I'd like us to focus on the situation on ground. Hence why we're having this discussion as regards what your company does for the situation and transparency. But let me quickly also ask, permit me to switch back to Mr. Ibidolapo. I do have a report here as well that equally mentions that compliance is a big problem. Recently, contractors who equally work for the federal government had complained about payments being delayed. I'm sure that you are very aware of this and you would love to speak on this, where contractors have worked very hard. Before they get their pay, they're told to pass through different bureaucracy. And therefore, the federal government did come out with a new directive that henceforth, before projects would be approved, it had to also come from a certain top before they would get approvals. What's your take on curbing these issues? And do you think they also add to the transparency challenges that we're currently facing now in governance?
Well, I feel it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think it's a very important issue that you brought up, because delayed payments to contractors can be a significant barrier, not just to project completion, but also to fostering trust in the government's commitment to transparency and accountability. So when contractors work out on projects, they deserve timely compensation. They expect to get paid for the job they've done. And the existing bureaucracy, definitely what it does is to create an environment where delays are not just frustrating, but they will also open the door for corruption. And obviously, maybe they have to jump through hoops to get their payment. Maybe they have people they have to settle along the way. So, because if approvals have to go through certain top officials, it definitely will raise questions about whether those processes are genuinely aimed at ensuring quality and accountability, or they're just another layer of red tape that will be exploited. So for me, I think the new directive could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it might streamline processes and ensure that only vetted projects receive funding. On the other hand, if it's not managed properly, it could still lead to even more opacity, as decisions might become centralized in the hands of a few individuals. And this also then creates opportunities for favoritism and corruption, and that will further erode public trust. So, in my opinion, to curb these issues, I believe we need a more transparent procurement process. This could involve implementing clear guidelines that contractors can easily access, ensuring that all stakeholders know what to expect. And additionally, regular audits and public reporting on project approvals and payments could help mitigate the risk of corruption. So ultimately, I would say transparency in how contracts are awarded and how payments are processed is a very crucial aspect of governance. And so if contractors and the public can see that the system is fair and accountable, it will not only improve project delivery, but definitely will also enhance the overall trust in governance. So at the end of the day, it's about creating a culture where everyone knows that there are checks and balances in place and that accountability insecurity is definitely not just a buzzword, but it's a reality in Nigeria.
Ebidolapo Ajayi, the president, the Movement Pro Pictures and United States political analyst, as well as communications manager for Connected Development, Stephen Akinfala. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. We continue to put pressure to ensure that accountability and transparency is demanded for, not just demanded for, but given to us. We're going to break now. When we come back, Breakfast Central continues. A federal high court in Abuja has restrained Professor Pat Utomi and his associates from proceeding with plans to form a shadow government, ruling the concept incompatible with Nigeria's constitutional design. Recall that Pat Utomi announced the formation of the Big Tent Coalition shadow government on May 5th, 2025, after which he got sued by the Department of State Services, DSS, as his initiative was tagged as an attack on the Constitution and a potential threat to national security.
In a judgment delivered on 22nd of September, Justice James Omotosho held that the idea of an alternative or parallel cabinet is unconstitutional under Nigeria's presidential system. The court declared the initiative void, noting that it could mislead citizens and clash with the constitutional structure. Now, joining us this morning to discuss this further is former DSS director, a former director of the Department of State Services, Mr. Dennis Umar-Farouq. Welcome to you and thanks for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Umar-Farouq, Pat Utomi had insisted that the initiative was neither a rebellion nor a bid to seize executive power, but a citizens' platform for responsible democratic opposition. Do you think the issue here is in the name of this initiative? Where did he go wrong?
If you remember very well, we discussed this on this very platform. Yeah. And when he decided, or when the DSS took him to court, and at that time I said it, that although citizens have their right of speech, free speech and association, forming a government was illegal and it's unconstitutional. So there is no way the learned professor, could make a mistake like that. But on that day, we also said that we'll leave it to the courts. And right now, I think there was victory for the DSS at the court. The ruling was for the DSS, and it's a landmark judgment, of course, in law enforcement in Nigeria, and of course for the rule of law too.
All right. Well, in practice, how could someone form a shadow cabinet? I mean, that is transparent about being advisory, oppositional, without violating constitutional norms. I know we talked about this the last time, and we indicated how it's unconstitutional, like many had said, and I think you also, pandered towards that direction. Can you share with us how this can actually be formed, yet it can still remain constitutional? Because Pat Utomi is saying that, he didn't violate any of the constitutional norms.
Well, the courts have said it. When he started it, we told him that he was wrong, and of course, it was tested at the court. The DSS was right in going to court, at least, because otherwise it would have been treason. It would have been treason. Now, you cannot form a parallel government in a presidential system. In the United Kingdom, yes, it's allowed where people can even form Her Majesty shadow government. That's what they call it over there. But in Nigeria, which is fashioned after the presidential system, you cannot do that. And of course, Pat should know that because I think he's an American scholar. So you just cannot do it, because if you do it, I think it will be called treason. Now, you can form other associations. People do form associations. You can form a political party, you know, and then, of course, run for election. And then if you win the election, you form your government, you know. But forming a shadow government, I think, still remains illegal.
So again, just like you've mentioned, I think the question is about, or the question about its legality isn't about what they're planning to do, because we've had a conversation with Professor Pat Utomi, and in our conversation with him, he had expressed that what they're there to do is to analyze the governmental policies, prefer solutions or alternatives where possible. Basically, and this isn't the first time we'll see that being implemented. So again, shouldn't a better way to go about this would be to maybe just switch the name and not call it a government, and just say maybe the Shadow Academy or Shadow Organization or something else, but still being able to achieve what they are achieving? And there are those who have also criticized the DSS, that it would seem like that this was not within the DSS scope of work, and that they maybe have stepped out of their jurisdiction, that they had other pressing issues to attend to, not this one. Let's get your thoughts on the two of them.
So the first one is that, there are other ways of doing it. And it is very interesting that it is Pat Utomi that is even coming into this. Because I don't know if you remember, but if you go down memory lane, there was a show, a television show that I think runs every week or so, called Padino's Gang. And in that particular show, they discuss government policies, you know, and there's a group with him that discuss government policies, and then, of course, look for better alternatives of how things could be done. He knows that, you know, but for him to come up now and say, let's form a shadow government, I think he was having a little brainwave on, thinking of what to do. If he feels very bad about what the government is doing, I think he can form associations. He can form a political party, you know, of course, one of which he has always been a member. So it is there that you can actually sit down in the political party and plan that, look, okay, let's shadow this government. And in the party, he can actually talk about, you know, different aspects of government that he wants to reform, you know. But to form a shadow government, that's not the way to go. Now, for the second one, whether the DSS have the responsibility, yes. Because if you look at the instrument that set up the DSS, they are supposed to, you know, fight against any crime, you know, that is against the Constitution of Nigeria, you know. And if this particular case, as the court has ruled, is against, you know, the breakup of Nigeria, or to form a parallel government, or to, you know, cause treason, I think there is their responsibility to nip it in the bud. But my happiness here is that they didn't go arresting him, because, you know, the DSS has had its own directions under military rules. In fact, it was formed under a military government. And then, of course, it will have some of these impunity, things of impunity. But we are transiting into a democratic government, and I praise the new leadership of the DSS, where they have decided to follow the rule of law.
Now, Mr. Makri, I want you to speak specifically for someone who's been in the system to the issues the court saw as a result of Mr. Utomi's pronouncement of forming a shadow government. In what practical ways, or in which ways do you see this possibly leading to a breakdown of law and order, and the reason why the DSS stepped in the first place? If he's performing, if he's doing the job of an opposition politician and keeping the government in check and looking at policies after policy?
There are many ways to do that. There are many ways to do that. Right now, people do it. You know, there are people who come out to say, oh, this government is doing this government is doing this, and it is not right. You can call the government to question, whereby you feel as a citizen that they are doing things that are not right, or they are doing things that are detrimental to the citizens, or, you know, wrongly. You can point all that out. And there are many avenues for correction. Although, you know, we are not in a military rule, so I think that people are free, citizens are free to, you know, call the government to question. And then, of course, sometimes in a proper democratic, that's what we're saying, that if it was like in the UK, where they have the parliamentary system, the Prime Minister comes in there, and then, of course, the opposition is sitting right across the table from him. And when he presents his case, they challenge him, and he explains, and they go on. You know, our own presidential system is totally different from that type of system. We used to have that before. But in presidential system, you have the legislature, you know, to form the law. They create the law. And then, of course, you have the executive that carries out the law. And then, of course, if there is any disagreement, you have the judiciary to interpret or review the law. So these three arms are very much available in the presidential system. And to go outside that system, to go and form a shadow government, I think is illegal.
Okay. Mr. Farouq, say you just stay with us. We'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll look at the implication of what the court has said and what had happened in previous times, especially when a shadow government was mentioned. Stay with us. We still have joining us a former DSS boss, Mr. Dennis Amakri, here with us as we're discussing the major conversation concerning the formation of a shadow government which has been denied, especially by Pat Utomi. Well, let's look at the previous times. There were statements made during the times of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, where some politicians have come out to state categorically that a shadow government will be set up to look into the ways and the processes in which the former president was carrying out his processes, or governance rather. And it seems nothing was done. The DSS was mute, and Nigerians rather saw it as just a mere statement. Why is it that this one is different? Or are we seeing a situation where many have attributed the ordinary mention of a shadow government by Professor Pat Utomi as one that is scaring the current administration? So because they are fearful, they don't want any of that to happen.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's not scary, you know. It's just a public debate or a public discourse, you know. And I think even Pat Utomi, I can assure you that Pat Utomi knows about the unconstitutionality of this particular situation that is playing with. But I think he was testing the waters. He was testing the waters. But like you asked, why didn't it happen before? You know, why now? Why now? Because I think there is a new wave or a new thing going on, and many people don't understand it. And that is that we have a new leadership in the DSS. You know, a new leadership in the DSS that believes in the rule of law. And under that leadership, I think I've read about twice. Some people were illegally detained, and they were released, and of course compensation were paid to them twice. One was 10 million, the other one was 20 million. So things like this do happen. And but one thing I want you to understand is, as we pursue the democratic system, and then their aim to follow the rule of law, to give equal justice under the law, it is also necessary that they look at all the other cases. And I think they are doing that right now.
Now, Mr. Makri, an issue recently happened, and the DSS was involved. And that brings us to the question of the criteria or standards the DSS uses to assess whether a political initiative or a statement is a threat to national security. I'm talking about the arraignment of Mr. Omoyele Sowore for his insult of Mr. President on the social media platform X. What's your take on this?
I think on that case, I think they've gone to court, if I'm right, because I think that was the last thing I read about.
Yes, and critics say that, it's not DSS's personal responsibility or constitutional responsibility to go after critics of Mr. President, that they have a whole litany of issues to deal with, that you should leave that to the President's personal handlers to deal with.
Okay. Now, there is something I would want to make very clear to you. The role of the DSS is to fight any crime against security internally in Nigeria. And then, of course, they are also given the responsibility to protect, the president, the vice president, his family, and then at the same time, the governors, the deputy governor and their families, and some very key important ministers, not all ministers, key important ministers like petroleum, finance, and others. So these are the people that are allowed, constitutionally to take care of, to be taken care of by the DSS. Now, taking care of includes protection, includes also, you have to protect the principals from reputational risk. At the same time, you also protect them from physical risk. And that's why you have bodyguards for the president. And now these bodyguards, of which I have done one before during Buhari Diagbon regime, that was my first job. I was a presidential bodyguard, and the training is very clear. If anybody shoots at the president, you cover him with your body and evacuate him from that place. If somebody throws a rotten egg or something at the president, you cover him with your body and take him out. At the same time, that's physical. Reputationally, you also protect him from unnecessary insults. You can criticize the president, but you cannot insult him, because it's not the person, it's the office. And that's why you are even, in fact, something is playing out in the United States now, where President Donald Trump is going after some people that, were his enemies during the campaign. And he felt that, and now he felt that some of them are against him and they want to even prosecute them. So I think there are lines that are drawn there. You can criticize the president, but you cannot insult him or assault him. So these are the lines that many people don't understand.
So what happens to freedom of speech?
Where the president has to be called a criminal.
But we live in a democratic state. What happens to freedom of speech?
freedom of speech. You know, freedom of speech ends where another person's freedom starts. Freedom of speech does not mean that people can just talk anyhow. That's not the meaning of freedom of speech. You have to respect the freedom of other people too, including the president.
Okay, so there's been comparison between what we see in a different democratic setting. For instance, in the United States, a popular TV show host had spoken against Donald Trump, and aside from having his show, stopped and then brought back again, here in Nigeria, we do have not just Omoyele Sowore, we do have some journalists who have equally spoken about the president's reforms and so on. And we've also heard that it's not been uhuru for them because some have had to face the DSS as well. Do you think that the DSS is in any way doing too much, especially in instances where people just have to bear their minds and talk about the reforms? Or do you think that it's showing a sign of nobody should say anything at all? You've highlighted what freedom of speech is defined as, but many are also looking at it from this aspect, especially us as well. When we see these stories, it's like nobody should say anything at all. Rather, everybody should just keep mute, and it's a case of do as I say. So where do we draw the line? What
we are not
where?
Nigeria.
Nigeria is not the United States of America.
Yes, the last time I checked, Nigeria is not a dictatorship. Nigeria is not a dictatorship. Here in the United States, they are a democratic society, but you can find out that some people are already voicing it, especially in the Democratic Party, that we are not, we are, they believe that President Trump is becoming authoritarian, moving towards dictatorship. The Democrats are saying that because of some of the kind of pronouncements he made. He is going to go after his enemy. He does not forgive his opponents, and stuff like that. And of course, it's not allowed. Now, the thing is that the institutions here are very strong. The institutions are so strong that if the president makes certain pronouncements, or, even like what is going on with immigration right now, and of course, trying to deport people or arbitrarily, they can go to court. There was a guy that was even deported to South America. And then, of course, his lawyers went to court, his wife was there, and then they brought him back. He's now back in the United States. So there are some presidents who try and test the limits of their own constitution. And that's why you have dictators. You have dictators, and then you have benevolent dictators. Some are practicing authoritarian governments and stuff. But in Nigeria, the constitution is there. And then, of course, remember, when you start to, when people are starting to say certain things, the security agencies will sit down and look at it. How does this affect the reputation of the government or the president? And if they feel that, yes, this has gone overboard or they've gone beyond that thin line. In military dictatorship, they will go and arrest those people. And it has happened in Nigeria many times. Gani Fawemi, human rights activists.
Absolutely. But we hope
regimes have been arrested.
We hope not to return to
we
those.
are now in democratic situation, and I think those kind of things are
absolutely
old.
They're things of the past, and we hope not to return to those dark days. Thank you so much for your insights on this subject, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amakri.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Speaking
Thank you
with
for having me.
All right.
And Breakfast Central continues shortly. Olive Emodi will be bringing you the breakfast headlines. So stay with us.
What is bringing you breakfast headlines this morning on Breakfast Central? We begin with updates. The Nigerian National Assembly has announced new security measures restricting movement around the office of Senate President Godswill Akpabio. This was contained in a memo dated October 2nd and signed by the Sergeant at Arms at the National Assembly, Etido Ekpo. It was stated that the corridor linking the White House lobby to the Senate President's office will be barricaded. Welcome back. It's time for breakfast headlines. Nigeria's National Assembly has announced new security measures restricting movement around the office of Senate President Godswill Akpabio. This was contained in a memo dated October 2nd and signed by the Sergeant at Arms at the National Assembly, Etido Ekpo. Ekpo stated that the corridor linking the White House lobby to the Senate President's office will henceforth be reserved exclusively for senators and members of the House of Representatives. He explained that aides and personal assistants will no longer be permitted access to the passage. The National Assembly is scheduled to resume plenary on October 7th after a recess of more than 2 months. And now on electoral matters, the chairman of Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has urged the National Assembly to expedite the passage of proposed amendments to the country's electoral legal framework. Yakubu made the appeal in Abuja during a meeting with the European Union Election Observation Follow-up Mission to Nigeria, led by Barry Andrews. He also headed the EU mission during the 2023 general election. Yakubu emphasized that the early passage of the amended electoral law is crucial for INEC's effective planning ahead of the next general election. He noted that INEC had thoroughly reviewed all 8 recommendations specifically directed to the Commission in the European Union Election Observation Mission's report on the 2023 general election. And now talking security. The Plateau State Police Command says that it has arrested 7 suspected kidnappers, including others arrested for armed robbery, cattle rustling, amongst others. The State Commissioner of Police, Emmanuel Adeshina, while briefing journalists at the command headquarters in Jos, says that the police will not relent in curbing criminal activities, protecting lives and property, and restoring law and order. He called for more collaboration with the public, especially in the area of intelligence sharing.
Together harmoniously to see how we can rescue those people who were trapped in the various rivers where the incident happened, and recover them, and also assess them, the level of devastation, the impact of the disaster, and come up with the modalities to see how we can, make them those who were directly affected, indirectly affected, to see how we can support them.
As I'm speaking to you now, we've recovered 5 more bodies, and an operation emergency office have been put in place there by the state government, and we've been urged that we'll make sure that all these bodies should be recovered from. His Excellency has approved the release of relief materials to some flood-prone areas, and don't be surprised, within the next 24 hours, we are expecting His Excellency to visit scene personally.
The Edo State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, the Commandant Agung Benga, has died in Benin City. Benga slumped shortly after delivering his goodwill message at an event organized by the International Association of World Peace Advocates on Thursday, held at Bishop Kelly Pastoral Center, Benin. Immediately after the incident, attendees at the event made efforts to revive him, but to no avail. He was hurriedly rushed to the military base hospital, Benin, where Benga was confirmed dead. Elsewhere, protesters assembled in Istanbul and marched towards the Israeli consulate in response to Israel's interception of a pro-Palestinian aid flotilla heading for Gaza. Demonstrators called for the immediate release of the Sumut Fleet volunteers and demanded a complete embargo on Israel. The rally reflected strong opposition to Israel's actions and a call for support of humanitarian efforts bound for Gaza.
Küresel Sumut filosu da aslında uluslararası çapta bu direnişe desteğin en sembolik örneklerinden biri. Ama Siyonizm kendi varlığını bir kez daha ortaya koyarak 44 ülkeden 50'nin üzerindeki gemiyi ve içinde yer alan gönüllüleri alıkoymuş durumda şu an. Bugün burada hem bunu protesto etmek için hem de İsrail'e tam ambargo uygulanması talebiyle bir araya geldik. Sumut filosu gönüllüleri derhal serbest bırakılmalı, İsrail'e tam ambargo uygulanmalı.
Bugün Gazze'deki ablukayı kırmak ve Filistin halkına insani yardım götürmek için yola çıkan Sumut filosunun Siyonist İsrail tarafından müdahalesi üzerine eylemdeyiz. Sumut filosunun bütün üyelerin, bütün tutsakların serbest bırakılmasını ve üniversite öğrencileri olarak da üniversitelerimizde soykırımcı İsrail devletiyle akademik, ekonomik bütün ilişkilerin kesilmesini talep ediyoruz.
That's all we have on Breakfast Headlines. We'll now continue with Breakfast Central. Please stay tuned.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central after that fantastic delivery of the headline news by Olive Emodi. Now it's time for us to look into the newspaper headlines and see what the front pages are saying. Joining us to do this on this beautiful Friday is Mr. Dotun Ojon, looking all colorful and cultural. You're reminding me of the newly revamped National Theatre. So many colors, bright colors.
In fact, I wanted to burst into giving a Ricky, but I say if I do that, some people will be jealous, so I will not do such.
It's true.
Is that supposed to be for me?
Yes, now Ricky for you.
Okay.
Yes,
I can start, so I'll just jump into Yoruba programs. Do I have to give you a test run?
Just calm down.
No,
I should not.
Calm down, calm down.
I feel a logo.
if you're not in the house of a pussycat, what happened?
No, I feel a logo. Lomo Ekushako.
You're really, I'm very impressed, but we have to get into it.
Okay, because
Very important.
I can continue.
Matters.
All right, let's get into
Conversation. Always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We start off with the front page of the Punch newspapers. Let's punch you with the news. Producers, can we kindly...
Can we punch in the punch?
Can we punch in the punch, please?
Thank you.
Now, the headline is very scary, and it's almost like the clear and present danger that we thought was so far away from us is getting closer to the coastal states in Nigeria. And I'm talking about the headline there, which says, Southwest states tighten borders amid banditry surge in Kwara. We first thought this was a northeast problem. We didn't deal with it. And now this terrorism and insurgency is moving towards the southern part of Nigeria. Kwara State has been reported incidents of extreme violent extremist groups. Osun Ondo deployed tactical teams, while police in border communities. Intelligence agencies track bandits, plan containment. Will containment be the best approach now? Or you should just neutralize them all. Southwest states fortified against attacks, says the Amotekun Corps, and eliminate criminal elements, CDS charges security forces. Amotekun Corps, from the videos we've seen, they don't seem to have the weaponry to go against those general purpose machine guns that we saw with those terrorists in Katsina State. Electricity Act, poor Nigerians, others to get tariff relief, says the minister. And Rivers funds, this is not going out of the news soon. Rivers people really want accountability. ICPC, the Independent and Corrupt Practices Commission, reviews petition against EBAS, the sole administrator. They want him to account for his time as sole administrator in Rivers State. EU canvasses urgent reforms before 2027 polls. The European Union is telling INEC to reform and urging the Nigerian government before the next electoral cycle in 2027 to deepen our democracy. And Oluwo ridiculing Yoruba monarchy, says traditional rulers. This same Oluwo was the one that was showing a Canadian passport, saying he's very proud of being a Canadian citizen. And the Oluwo, if I'm not mistaken, has been engaged in fisticuff, fighting with a fellow monarch in the past. So I'm not surprised they're saying he's ridiculing Yoruba monarchy. We'll get to that later. Stray bullet kills Osun graduate after NYC call-up. Very sad news there. And NAFDAC destroys 15 billion fake expired drugs both fake and expired drugs in Oyo State.
So there are two categories. One, some are fake, but they are not expired. And then there's the original that has expired.
Either way, both of them can kill a human.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's terrible. But let's start with this very news that calls for alarm and concern. Southwest states tighten borders amidst banditry surge in Kirawa. Why have we not been able to deal with this problem of insecurity in the country? And Mr. President's National Day, Independence Day address said there's now peace in the land.
Okay, I was in a convocation conveyed by Henry Olonimoyo in Akure 2 days ago, and we had conversation around Nigeria. And one of the topics is actually the politics of security in Nigeria. And somebody had come up to say that Nigeria at the moment does not need a new law even to tackle the security challenges that we have. And you can see that through the Amotekun call. We were shouting, let's create state police, let there be specific this thing that will point to the fact that state can now own their own police and all of that. But people still took the laws that we have and they were still able to make something out of it with the creation of Amotekun and all of that. Beyond the problem of insecurity that we talk about, the major challenge we have is to think that Abuja will solve all the problems. Once we have this mentality, we'll continue to move from one level of insecurity to the other. And I've said it here before, that the concept of security is not the complete absence of crime in the community. The concept of security is the response to crime. So when you see a community that responds to crime quickly, people say that that community is secured. Between 2015 and 2019, one of the reasons why killings were very prominent in Nigeria was because of the fact that the government at that point in time, they will say there's herdsmen attack here, the government will go quiet. Till the local community people were buying franchise into the crime, till they were kidnapping themselves in the name of Fulani herders. In fact, there was one situation in Osho State where a professor was kidnapped. And when he was relating the story, he had said that at night, that people who were speaking Yoruba would come to the camp to buy Puma parts. It was that terrible. So when we now get to a point now that we are in, it is now time for everybody that is involved in securing the people. It is not time to say, oh, we are waiting for the federal government, we are waiting for this and that. And let me look at the trail of what has happened. The lack of intelligence on the part of criminals, we always give them out because they will always leave a trail behind. They started from Niger State, and they were leaving a trail till they got to Kwara. It is clear that when they leave the Kwara, they are heading towards the southwest. That's a trail that they are leaving behind. So we expect that the intelligence that government has will be worked on. It is not as if the life in Lagos is more important than the life in Kwara. But in terms of security strategy, when Jonathan was there, they had had a meeting that we were privy to later on, that one of the ways to solve the problem of insurgency in the north is to cage them to the northeast. But is
that the containment we're talking about?
No, yes, to now show the government, that they were ahead. They came to bomb Abuja. So what these people are trying to do now is that once they enter the southwest, God forbid, once they get to Lagos, then they will cripple governors. They will create major disbelief in the system. And you cannot divorce what's happening now to the challenge of politics. Because once it's midterm, once it's 1 year to election, by next year, don't forget, political parties will do their primary election.
And there's
It
political
starts already.
So you will see that all of these things are closely tied to politics. And until people in government, because you will not say the NSA, for example, does not know the people that are involved in all of these things. It's not possible. The level of our intelligence, the level of the security, the man that gave the lecture that I'm talking about day before yesterday has been in the military intelligence for long. In fact, he was telling us day before yesterday that there's no how anything will enter Nigeria air that they will not have an idea of what has coming. But whether they will do anything with the information is a different thing entirely. So what we are having now, like you said, is extremely scary, but it's not beyond the power of government. I mean the three tiers of government to rally around and solve this problem.
So they should do something about it.
Urgently.
Are you of the opinion as well that there should be a state of emergency on insecurity?
Okay, so yes and no.
Wow.
Or maybe it's not even a yes or no question. Because we have seen constantly government declare state of emergencies in sectors. And at the end of the day, we go back to square zero. For instance, in 2008, Umar-Farouq had declared a state of emergency on electricity. Nothing came up. In 2002, there was a state of emergency that was declared on the economy, that led to the privatization of government assets. After that, we discovered that they were dashing friends, relatives,
even NITEL. We've not heard anything from NITEL since then.
So in fact, there was what they call Vision 2010 during the military era. The idea of Vision 2010 was housing for the people. It was a way of declaring a state of emergency on housing. But as we speak now, judging from even the elitist part of Lagos, you will see that we have housing crisis in Nigeria. When Buhari came on board in 2019, there was another declaration that was made when Mr. Femi Adesina came on air and said that he has consulted with the president, that by 2019, the problem of electricity will be solved. 2019, we have entered into another complexity of electricity. So when you're talking about state of emergency, I'm looking at it from my own angle, and my internally generated data is coming out to me to tell me that the last time they declared state of emergency, nothing came out of it.
Joe, do you mean
this is internally generated data? This is your IGD,
MDS.
Internally generated data. Let's start from it.
No, Joe, I want to understand Joe's. I want us to integrate the state of emergency. Do you mean a Fubara type of state of emergency where the governors are removed and you have military?
No, not the governors. No, not that.
It's all the concentration of government resources and attention.
Exactly, attention between the borderlines of the northern part, affected areas.
I want us to go to another paper because we have to.
No, before we leave this paper, we left a very big story.
Please.
Being someone who's played in the political space, you'll be in the best position, and you've also contested for office to help us analyze this. Obi joined dollarized primaries, obedience reply Atiku. So he's yet to make up his mind on, and time is ticking. They say 24 hours is a long time in politics, on which party he will be pitching his tent with in 2027. And Mr. Atiku, as we know, is already in the ADC. And the obedience is saying, you know, these primaries, the delegates, it's almost a money game. They've seen it in the APC, PDP, and all parties. Can he really play politics in Nigeria without playing this dollarized or envelope politics?
This news is very important, and you will permit me to quickly tell a story as a background. The politician is not the man who runs for election. Because he comes out to appear as if he's a politician because he runs. The politician is the man who understands the process that produces the candidate. You know, they are all they are all aspirants now. You see, the man who understands the process that turns an aspirant to a candidate is the man who is a politician. Something happened in my state. A man had come from abroad, wanted to run for office, and he was so arrogant a guy, and he was everywhere, maybe also spending money. And he never knew that the party chairman of his party had decided that it's not going anywhere. So he won the primary because he was not contesting against anybody. He was the only one. So he won the primary. He became the candidate. But the party chairman had decided that even becoming the candidate, you are still not going anywhere. You have everything, but I don't know. I'm not going to go into detail. You know what the party did? The party chairman did when they were putting names for who will be the the poll unit agent. The party chairman went and put the name of other political party members as his own agent. It means that you are in party A, you are running for election. But everyone that is holding, that is working for you, are in party B. That's how they frustrated the man. Obi does not understand this process of moving from being an aspirant to being a candidate. And is beyond spending or not spending. In PDP primary, the last PDP primary, money exchange hands. And nobody will come out to accuse anybody of spending, of outspending the other. People spend money. The FCT minister sitting now spend money. Atiku Abubakar spend money. But there's something that the other person understood. It is what I think Obi should understand. Beyond the dollars we talk about in primary election, there's a way you can make people buy into your vision. And I've seen it happen before.
So you think delegates can listen to your speech and they will be moved?
Delegates don't listen to speech on the day of election.
Wow.
Delegates listen to trust before they listen to money. There's a way you will have sold yourself. And see, even the former governor, and I stand to be corrected, the sitting president, nobody will come out to say, oh, I just contested the election, I didn't spend anything. That would be a major lie. If the sitting president today will not come out and say, oh, join the APC government, I just said God bless you. But also, the former vice president, Osinbajo, will not come out to say, I didn't do anything. But there was a major disconnect between what he was saying and the people he was saying it to. And that's what's happening in Obi's case. Fantastic guy, but you must understand, how were you, and this is what Mr. Okonkwo was saying, Barrister Okonkwo, who was his former spokesperson, that how will you allow a political party to be rescued off your hand when you were that popular during 2023 election? This is the learning. There was no, it didn't sound well to me.
So if you could advise him now, what advice would you?
He should just have given him the advice. He should just understand the process beyond the popularity of the election. If you don't make it to the ballot, how do you, to the ballot paper, how do you want people to vote for you? That's why.
He probably has his own strategy. Let's be patient.
No, it's annoying. You may not understand. How can somebody of Obi status be standing and be putting legs like this? One is here, the other is here.
But the strategy. But the others enemies know your next move.
But the others are doing the same too.
And that's why there's nobody, including the man that is on seat today, that was as popular as Obi in 2023.
Yeah, because he was focused.
He was extremely popular. People just thought that he would be able to build on that. And the only way to build on that is that people, for example, have known you with Labour Party, is to play the politics of retaining, quote unquote, ownership of the party. I ran under my party. I still lead the party. I won't allow people who come to just hijack the party. If you are credible, you must build credible people along the line that must form a fence around your party. Okay. Party is very important too, except if he wants to become independent candidate.
Okay, let's quickly look at the next paper. Let's look at the Daily Trust. There are other stories there, political stories, but I want to take a completely different story. We see here erratic power hinders business in Kaduna, Kano, Katsina. Why Atiku is yet to declare for 2027. Naira rallies to 1,455 against the dollar. Reserves hit $43 billion. Yeah. Doctor killed, 3 children missing as gunmen attack Abuja community. Woman sets self ablaze in Bauchi. Now, looking at the story, they say middle-aged woman died after setting herself ablaze at the family residence of Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. She set herself on fire, arriving at the house in a commercial tricycle with a gallon of petrol. She was said to have asked to see Yelwa Abubakar Balewa, the daughter of the late Prime Minister and chairperson of the Bauchi State Orphans and Vulnerable Children Agency. Eyewitnesses said that when she was informed that Yelwa was not available, the woman returned to the entrance, poured petrol on herself, and lit it with a match. Bystanders who were attracted to the scene by her loud scream, attempted to put out the flames, but unfortunately made the situation worse. She was rushed to the hospital where she succumbed to severe burn injuries. Now, the public Police Public Relations Officer of the Bauchi State Command, Ahmed Wakil, said police have launched an investigation and that preliminary investigations indicated that the woman had a history of mental illness, which reportedly developed after the birth of her last child.
It's postpartum depression.
Yeah, I just brought that up so that we understand again, like some of the complications and complexities that can happen, and you know the miracle really that childbirth is, and how you never can tell how a woman's body is going to react to childbirth. This woman developed mental illness after having a baby.
So for the first time, I never knew until it happened to somebody very close to me who lost her memory after childbirth. It took her about 6 months for her to regain
herself.
And this calls for societal respect for women, and it must begin by the authority showing this. We must give more women chance from the point of governance, and even in our homes. The best thing anybody can do for a woman is to give her a wing to fly. And if the woman develops one by herself, men should not try to clip them. Just let them fly. And my condolences to the family.
Yes, very, very sad about it. And this also speaks to the fact that, you know, every human being, the sanctity of human life, we see thousands of people will read that bandits, these people that became bandits, terrorists. It's a miracle, the miracle of childbirth. There's so many different processes before that human being can be formed and complete. And then this person comes to this world, we can provide the basics, shelter, clothing, healthcare, education. It's an indictment on the state of affairs in Nigeria. We really need to do better holistically.
Which is why if you connect that story to the Guardian newspaper, at the bottom left, you will see Sanusi Awoshika seeks 30% representation and level playing field for women. We need to see more representation of women in politics and in political spaces. Part of the conversations that have come up in constitutional review, and we hope to see that, you know, so that they can champion causes. Because
and beyond just talking, we need to see action. Because they always talk about it.
You know why it's a bit difficult? Virtually all the political parties in Nigeria today, of course I relate with them, have provisions for women to pick their form, either free or at half the price. But here is it. We have also found out that women don't have the, cannot get involved in some of the things that men do, the dirty politics, to be able to get the party ticket as a candidate at the end of the day. Sir, as we have now, I'm just telling you, it must not be dirty, but the reality of what we have now. For instance, we just talked about delegate now. It's crazy, beyond giving money. In fact, there was a situation that somebody has given money to delegate. The other person came to use some things that we don't want to mention on here, pack all the delegates and went to lock them up in a place. So it's just complex.
It's really dirty, almost like dirty.
But of course, one of the surest ways is through political appointment. If we can actually get
that's
like
the only way
for women, then when you go into the government through appointment, you can develop the capacity to actually run for a
let's hope we get more Amina Mohammeds and Kemi Adeosun and more Okonjo-Iweala
and more Olive Emodis.
More Olive Emodis and less Betty Edu.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. And just to quickly highlight this, when next you come on the show, when you're analyzing, you said, I stand to be corrected, and you were sitting down. So next time, say,
I sit to be corrected.
I really wish we could show our viewers your beautiful shoe this Friday. But,
let's go on a break.
We'll change the sets.
We're bringing entertainment next. Bandit is here in the studio. Stay with us.
Tatawizi.
When I start like this, you know that the entertainment is already here. Swag! The most swagged out entertainment reporter is in the studio with us. I'm talking about Sam Dandy. He's wearing white and black because he's not just representing lawyers today. He's the law of entertainment.
Period. Wow.
Period.
I'll take it however it comes.
I have a segment called Which Way Nigeria, but this is better than Which Way.
We've not seen Which Way Nigeria.
Which Way? My favorite segment on Breakfast Central, hands down, more than the news.
You're my favorite anchor in News Central.
Wow.
I don't like all these other people.
All the accolades.
Okay, you join entertainment team.
We got to talk entertainment. Who's ready?
Go ahead.
Well,
go.
Let's start with this one. Global music star Rema has been named on the prestigious Time 100 Next list, recognized for shaping the future of music and culture. Now, the young star is the only African artist honored this year. Now, Grammy winner Angelique Kidjo penned his profile and celebrated Rema, calling him the embodiment of Afrobeat's global success. The 56-year-old performer added, thanks to artists like him, African music is at the forefront of global culture. And no doubt, Calm Down was a hit. It hit 2 billion streaming numbers. And honestly, there's nothing compared to the success if we look back and think about African music.
Was it success on its own or because of Selena Gomez?
What do you think,
it was a very great song, but she helped to add Maggie to it.
I would say maybe, but again, there's the original version and the remix, which have both surpassed over 1 billion. So I don't know.
But his new song is just noise now.
Wow.
You can add it to ambulance and use it for siren.
He's rave lord. That's what the Gen Z's like.
It's
a bit of noise.
He is.
We can't relate. So
Not a Gen Z. Rema is making Nigerians proud. He's putting Nigeria on the global music map. He's a hard worker. He's multi-talented. And we're just so proud of him and all that he does, representing not just the Maven crew, but the Nigerian entertainment space, and especially Beanie Boys.
Yes.
Beanie Boys, gang. All right.
I'm sure Governor Pueblo will be very proud of him.
I think that next time that Governor Pueblo is inspecting Gwoza, they should be playing Rema's song for him.
I agree with you.
Speaking about Rema's influence continues to soar. Now, this accolade follows his dynamic performance at the Global Citizen Festival 2025 in New York, alongside record mate Ira Star and South African global sensation Tyler. Now, the trio individually brought Afrobeats, Amapiano, and the perfect energy to Central Park, thrilling thousands with high-end energy and their magnetic stage presence. I was such a fan. Look at the numbers, look at the people, and this is all for a good cause. If you haven't seen these videos, we got to play it, but this is where we say, they are making us proud. Afrobeats to the world.
This Global Citizen, right?
Yeah, Global Citizen.
But why does their torchlight look like? Oh yeah, I saw this video. This was video that people were alleging that they were doing something on stage now.
Don't mind them, please.
Don't mind those people.
But look at all the
sea crowd.
Wow,
this is beautiful.
I'm impressed that
if you're an artist out there and you have dreams of being like this, keep the dreams alive.
You know what this reminded me of? The moment when Don Jazzy spotted Rema and Iris. I remember back in the days when Rema was in, and Spider-Man.
I remember that.
Look at Rema now. And then Iris Star, I remember when Don Jazzy had just announced her signing. I think as we're giving accolades to these two people, we must also specially applaud Don Jazzy and the Mavens team for how they've really projected some of the biggest stars in the country.
So the ability to spot talent. What's Don Jazzy's brother's name? He's the one.
The Prince.
The Prince.
Yes, he was one that spotted
Rema. I also want to appreciate the crowd there for having lights to charge their phones in order to give us
It's not Nigeria,
that effect.
This is New York.
Oh, anyway. I was wondering where they got power bank.
Wow.
No, some have power banks there.
Yeah, of course
they will have power banks. You can't go to a concert without power bank.
You need it. It's a life need. In case anything happens, you want to be able to know. But I mean, amazing crowd. Again, these are young Gen Z stars representing around the world.
You're making us feel old. Please, can you stop?
Gen Z. Please, let's move on. I'm Gen Z too.
Speaking about more superstars, Tams has officially become the best-selling female African artist in the United States.
Nigerians are winning.
Cementing her position as a global powerhouse. Now, this milestone reflects her massive streaming numbers, record sales, and high-profile collaborations, including Essence with Wizkid and my favorite, Wait For You with Future and Drake, which now has sold 10 million units and it's qualified for a diamond certification.
Wow.
This is what makes it major.
I mean, in such a record time. I remember when she started. She featured you.
That's right.
One of the first journalists to interview her.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I want to do this award to my
Look at her now.
And to my daddy. Honestly, I'm so proud
celebration
of
day.
I'm so proud. I remember when we interviewed her many years ago. That was when she dropped Mr. Rather, are you there? I love that song. She's always been a talent, and I'm glad that the world is seeing the magic that is Thames. And, you know, when she first came to the international scene, many people were crediting her superstar status to Wizkid. I'm glad that people can see that on her own, Thames is a figure. Thames is a talent. Yes, collaboration is great. Collaboration is great, and it was great collaboration with Wizkid. That Essence song was a blast. But on her own, Thames is also
I'm just so happy that, you know what? People say we don't dance to any other music, we only dance to Afrobeats. But Thames doesn't even, and look at how successful she is. So whatever genre of R&B, you can do it, and you can be the next big thing.
It's global.
I shout out to all the people behind the scenes, Donna Wong, and, you know, her management team, all of them, Muiwa, rather. And
well, let's move from one celebration to a little bit of controversy now. This one, we're going back to Tyler, the South African singer, has publicly rejected Tiwa Savage's apology over the use of the term colored during a U.S. interview. Now, Tiwa, speaking on The Breakfast Club, apologized on behalf of Tyler, calling herself a big sister, you know, in the industry. But Tyler pushed back during her Global Citizen set, stating, "Sorry, not sorry," making it clear that she stands by her identity and didn't ask anyone to speak for her.
She has a lot of identity.
Wow.
Black, Zulu, Irish.
Wait, what was the first thing that Tyler said? That Tiwa is apologizing on her behalf. I think that's the first question.
So there was this controversy about, you know, Tyler calling herself colored. And again, people, of course, came for the
Black
American
community.
Black overseas came for her and said, you can't call yourself colored, you know. But again, I think we do have a nat. Let's play it. Let's play this. Let's watch this.
With Tyler, from your perspective, how did you feel about the conversation? Just how she handled it and people's reaction to it? Whew. You guys are serious.
Well, you're very outspoken.
Ooh, I feel like two truths can be real at the same time. I feel like maybe I don't really know what the first thing she said was that sparked the whole conversation, but I do know that from where she's from, she's, you know, she was, I think she doesn't consider, they don't call her black.
They call her colored.
Colored because she's mixed. And I get why that would be such a huge thing here because of, I mean, the history behind that name.
Sorry, I'm not sorry. Hey,
what can I say? Olive has a different face on. I mean, Tyler is standing her ground. She's like, I'm sorry, not sorry. I like that people address this as, you know what, she's definitely talking to Tiwa Savage in this, but Olive, wipe the face.
Well, maybe she's not talking to Tiwa Savage. I want to assume that she's not talking to Tiwa Savage.
Okay.
And, you know, I'll just leave it at that. Kudos to Tyler, but no Tiwa slander will be allowed.
We're not doing that.
That's all I'm saying.
Period.
Per.
We're going to wrap it up with a final story. Veteran actress Bimbo Akintola has urged Nigerians to reconsider polygamy, framing it as both cultural traditions and practical adaptation in today's society. In a recent interview with Biola Bayo, she noted that many Yoruba families historically embraced multiple wives and suggested the practice could help address what she described as a dwindling pool of eligible men.
Let's ask Johansson and Benga, since they are both married men. You know, do you like the suggestion?
Take a second wife.
I don't, because, I mean, it's one wife. I know what we deal with. And then
your wife is watching?
And then having multiple wives. It's not, I mean, I love my wife so much. I can never, even if she says go out there and
they don't know you. Don't talk.
I can't do it, man. I really don't. This is a tackle. No, this is similar to Mary Slessor when they were killing twins.
Wow.
We stop all these things. We cannot move backwards. This is pre-colonial practice.
I love it.
You're with him? I'm with him. I join him.
I am with them because I never married, but I do not share. I cannot share.
She did wrap it up by saying people should train men better so that, you know, there's no cheating. They don't need more than one. You know,
and I'm sure you agree with that as well.
Of course I do.
Oh, yes.
Any alternative opinion, we do not accept it on the show.
They should even say any man that cheats should be going to jail.
Yes, I agree. In fact, by the weekend, all of us here on Breakfast Central will carry placards. Say no to polygamy. One man, one wife only. That is our official position on Breakfast Central. We wrap up the show. We have to head out. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sam Dandy.
Thanks, Sam.
We always light up our mood. We're always really extra chirpy when you're on.
I'd also like to wish D1, comedian D1, successful completion of his Guinness Book of Records attempt. He's done, I was at his place this morning at 30, he's done 30 hours. I was at this morning.
Comedy.
Longest continuous stand-up comedy.
Okay, congratulations to him. And we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Au revoir. We're out of here. Peace out.
Au revoir.
See you in Federal Capital Territory. See you in Abuja, fam.